the Second Galactic War. Beginning on February 8th, 2084, and officially being declared on May 15th, 2184, it's gone on for over 2 years, and the methods and weaponry used by each faction have escalated, with the automatons likely currently building their own Death Star, the Terminids doing whatever that is they're doing, and the Illuminati are trying to summon their god by consuming systems in an all-encompassing void. But that's not really what I'm talking about today. Rather, I want to look back on the origins of the war, as I believe I know who truly caused it. And to start, I want to start by looking at the backstories of each faction. I'm going to start with the Terminids, since their backstory is the simplest. After the First Galactic War, since Super Earth had discovered that their bodies decompose into an oil-like substance called Element 710, they decided to farm the bugs for it, obviously. And as they did, the bugs would mutate and evolve over time into the current-day Terminids, and eventually they managed to break out of multiple farms and take over multiple planets before the Helldivers got mobilized. I have heard people say that Super Earth had genetically modified some of the bugs to try and get more E710 from them, but I couldn't really find anything that actually supported that claim, so I doubt it's true. Take with a grain of salt, okay? For the automatons, they were originally mining robots Super Earth gave to the cyborgs to assist them in their mining efforts, but the cyborgs end up modifying them, which created the first automatons, and then shipped them off Cyberstation 4 years before the Second Galactic War in a stolen spaceship called Vessel 00. After that, the automatons waited until they had a large enough army and attacked, and I'm not sure if it stated when they attacked, but I do believe it was sometime around when the Terminids broke out, as Super Earth would have been preoccupied with fighting the bugs, and, would have been overall a much more strategically sound move. And lastly, the Illuminati. We know next to nothing about their lore. I did make a video talking about the statues you can find in the ruins, so I do recommend you watch that, since this will use things I established in that and sort of go off of that. The link for it is in the description. So basically, what I think their backstory is that the Squids used to worship a god, right? But then eventually stopped worshiping it at, some point in their history. But after the First Galactic War, they started worshiping it again. And because of that worship, they gained access to wherever that Meridian Singularity leads. There, they built up their forces until the wormhole was created, at which point they exited and began to ransack colonies, and then yada yada, all that other stuff happened. And the whole Great Host, whatever, blah blah blah. So, why did I bring all that up? Well, if you look closer at the backstories, you can see that several events, I guess stand out would be the right way to put it. Vessel 00, for instance. How were the cyborgs able to smuggle that past Super Earth and outside of Super Earth's territory? Surely Super Earth would have detected that leaving his cyberstation, right? Or the Terminid outbreak. That must have been a coordinated outside effort, since breakouts from a handful of farms could have easily been shut down by the Thief, and the Terminids have been contained for nearly 100 years, so why would they suddenly be able to break out of it in such a large scale that it would require the return of the Helldivers core? Or, if I am right about the automatons attacking sometime around when the Terminid outbreak began, how would the bots know that? As far as I know, they don't have any sort of technology that would let them look across what is probably billions of trillions of light years to see the other side of the galaxy, and there's no way they could have also expanded that far in such did semicircle around the galactic map in the 4 years that they were around. They could have intercepted Super Earth transmissions about the outbreak, but they were likely rather far from any Super Earth controlled planets, so they were likely out of range of any sort of broadcasts. But out of all these, the one that stands out to me is the existence and creation of the Great Host, since it was built over the 100 years between the Galactic Wars. Inside of where the Singularity leads, that's where it was built, But out of all of these, the one that stands out to me the most is the existence itself of the Great Host. It was built over the 100 years between the Galactic Wars, and it was built inside of where the Singularity leads. Why would the Illuminati create such a massive invasion fleet if they didn't even know that the Singularity would exist? Without it, they would have no way to even get into the galaxy, and if they did somehow manage to get into the galaxy, they would have to travel such a far distance that, by the time they got past, 2 or 3 Super Earth-controlled planets, the fleet would have been like decimated like half its strength. So they obviously weren't planning like bringing in from like the outside like the outside of the galaxy. They knew that they were going to have to bring it into like inside the middle of it, as close to Super Earth as possible. And again, this all doesn't make sense unless they somehow knew the singularity was going to exist. And after I noticed these, I guess plot holes would be the right word for them. I began to search for an explanation for them because, after all, the narrative for Helldivers 2 has been rather solid, and there aren't really any plot holes I could find outside of these ones. And these plot holes, they didn't feel like they were the result of like bad writing. No, these felt deliberate, intentional. There must have been something I was missing, and I think I found it. I think the entire Second Galactic War was orchestrated by the Illuminate to create the Meridian Singularity. Let me explain. Going back to the faction backstories, if we insert the Illuminate into them, they fix all the plot holes. For Vessel 00, we know the Illuminate have cloaking tech, so they could have given it to the cyborgs for them to use on the vessel, so Super Earth wouldn't have been able to detect it leaving. For the Terminate outbreak, there are only two entities who could have possibly caused such a massive outbreak, that being the Illuminate and Super Earth themselves. However, it just doesn't really make sense why Super Earth would do that, at least to me. If they needed more oil, they could have just constructed more farms or demand like higher E710 yields, so they wouldn't really need to start an entire war for it. So that leaves the Illuminate as the only faction that would have caused the bug outbreak, And for the automatons attacking, they wouldn't have needed to intercept any broadcasts. The Illuminate would have just told them to attack. And I'm not pulling this out of nowhere either. We have proof the Illuminate were present on the other two fronts, since you can find Illuminate tech in the ruined megacities on both the Terminate and automaton fronts. So, Future B here, I got something wrong there. They can be found on the non-ruined ones, not the ruined ones like I said. Just want to clear it up, they are still there. They're just found on the non-ruined ones, okay? Plus, the Illuminate have a direct connection to the Terminates, since their god is related to the Terminates in some way, as the dark energy released by E710 matches the energy signature of dark energy, and E711 can be synthesized into dark fluid, and their god is, the Illuminate source of dark energy and dark fluid, so connection there. Now, this does raise a question. How do the bots and bugs fit into their plan exactly? Well, I think I might have an idea. This is just pretty much entirely a guess, since I don't have anything to go off of regarding like how they manipulated the bots and bugs or whatever. But so just want to clarify that I guarantee this is not true at all. But this is again best I could come up with. So let's go back to the beginning of the Second Galactic War. The Illuminate caused a massive outbreak of Terminates across multiple planets, and simultaneously the Illuminate instructed the automatons to invade the Severin sector. With Super Earth's forces split between the two fronts, they failed to sufficiently contain the Terminate outbreak, making Super Earth reactivate the Helldivers core and begin construction of the Termicide towers. As the war raged on, the automatons would attempt to push north towards Cyberstan, but were repeatedly stopped. Eventually, the Termicide towers were deployed, and Super Earth shifted its attention to the automatons, enacting Operation Swift Disassembly and destroying them. After the automaton fleet was completely eradicated, Super Earth began to push back the Terminates, but the automatons swiftly returned, completely overrunning the Valdez sector and attacking nearby sectors. I'm not sure if the automatons did this on their own, or if the Illuminate told them to do this. I personally think the Illuminate told them, though. My main reason is because the reclamation happened pretty much right after Super Earth went back to fighting on the bug front, and and I'm pretty sure the Illuminate didn't want us intervening with the TCS until at least one of the planets turned into a super colony. Anyways, we continued to fight the automatons until the super colony appeared, which we used the dark fluid to turn into the singularity. And at that point, the Illuminate no longer needed the other factions to assist them, so they just kind of just left them. Now, is this exactly how things played out between the Illuminate and the other factions? Again, no. But it's something similar, I guarantee, and this, again, is the best I could come up with you know, what little information is currently available. The Illumin's plan, I think, was to just force Super Earth into using the dark fluid on any planet to create a wormhole, and they just ended up going the Termicide route. The automatons were really more of a distraction, honestly, I'm pretty sure, since I don't think they really have the capability to, like the Terminids, of, like, completely transforming and infesting a planet to the point where it just has to be destroyed to rid it of them. Overall, the Second Galactic War was undoubtedly orchestrated by the Illuminati. The very existence of the Great Host proves that. How they caused it, that is something that is currently unknown to us, and we can only guess. But that's all I have for you today. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share, all that stuff. And with that, I will see you later.